But first, we have spoken to his accuser, Virginia Giuffre's brother, Sky Roberts, and her sister-in-law, Amanda. Now, they have told us overnight that Andrew, it's interesting not to say Prince Andrew, because, of course, that has been tripping off our tongues for decades, but now no longer. Simply Andrew should now give evidence in court.
He should be willing to come forward and have his day in court. As of now, he has not complied excuse me, with investigations. He has almost in some ways refused to come forward and actually give a proper investigation. So yes, I mean, we would invite that. I mean, I'd invite the king to have a conversation with us. I'd be more than willing to give my sister's testimony right in front of him. I'd have that conversation with him. I'll come to London tomorrow and we can have that conversation together. So the answer is yes, he should have his day in court. We're asking for his day in court. We're asking for a thorough investigation, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We wish that we were hugging her right now and laughing with her and celebrating this moment of vindication and victory. This ordinary American girl was able to do something so extraordinary, and I hope that her children know that.
It means everything to me. I knew it would mean everything to Virginia. She should be here. She really should. I mean, she should be in this camera right now, frame, and not me. I hope I'm doing her a little bit of justice. I hope we're doing her a little bit of justice in this. But I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of the UK people. I'm proud of the king. I'm proud of just the... It just proves that if you just come forward and tell the truth and through advocacy and really let your voice be heard, that change can really happen.
Wow. Well, Andrew, as you know, has always strenuously denied the allegations against him and said he was willing to help investigators. The Met Police dropped an investigation into Virginia Giuffre's claims back in 2021. And what's interesting, let's speak to our guests now, Salma, Caroline and Andrew. Andrew, what's interesting is that, of course, the statement from the King, absolutely unprecedented, historic, jaw-dropping. And as we always say on this programme, Andrew strenuously denies the allegations. In the statement, they take out the word strenuously, no vigorously, no strenuously. It's just he denies the allegations. There's something in that, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, he's been caught lying time and time again. I certainly found researching my book, you couldn't take a single thing he said without checking it. And I think the King has realised that he hasn't been telling them the truth. And so, though we have to say these things, I mean, the evidence against Andrew is overwhelming. And I would certainly join the Roberts family that this isn't the end of the story. It's distanced the royal family from the scandal. But now I think Andrew needs to go through due process of law. He has not cooperated with anyone, even with mutual assistance treaties. He's not cooperated with the victims' lawyers. I think there are strong grounds for charges to be brought.
Because, you know, people at home will be thinking, well, you know, it is a sign of privilege if the only punishment you get is taking away the title of prince. It's a sign of privilege that if the punishment is you'll move from one lovely big house to a slightly smaller lovely big house. I mean, for a lot of people at home, if this happened to them, they would be in a court of law. So, really, if at the very least, and if he denies allegations, he says he's innocent, but he'd be a key witness to certain things.
Yes,
he was a friend of Epstein. He can give a character reference, anything at all, to help the victims. Thousands, we believe, thousands of victims that have been part of this scandal involving many, many men.
Absolutely, and Sarah Ferguson as well. I mean, what one forgets is that she was a regular visitor at Epstein's homes. There are actually more numbers for her in Epstein's Black Book than Andrew, 18 to 16. And she should be a material witness as well. So I agree.
And you've said, sorry, since your book has come out, that you've heard there are new allegations and more people are coming forward. And are you saying some of those allegations are directed at Andrew specifically?
Yes, I mean, there's a second victim that hasn't been named, but the Mail have written about. David Boyes, Virginia's lawyer, has talked about people. I think it's inevitable in thousands of pages of Epstein material that there won't be more references to Andrew. So I think this is why the royal family needed to distance themselves.
Yeah. Caroline and Salma, there was discussion that perhaps Andrew's life and how the public purse was being used to fund his lifestyle ought to be discussed in Parliament. Of course, he's now being moved from the Crown Estate into a private home that the king will fund himself. Does that then mean that Parliament is no longer needed to push this story forward?
Well, to be honest, my view was always that it's not a job for Parliament, it's a job for the King. And I'm actually really pleased that the King has taken action and taken his titles away, because that was the specific issue about whether you needed an act of Parliament to remove that. I think, you know, as we've just heard from Andrew, the bigger issue here is what happens with future allegations, what actually happens with the allegations if they're not going to be aired, and we still have this idea of a payment that was made to Virginia Giuffre by Prince Andrew. Is that something that needs to be exposed and brought out into the open? If he continuously, strenuously denies these allegations, then surely he wants to be able to put the evidence out there. And I think that this problem is not going to go away, because it's not just about the royal family. It is about powerful people being able to act in a way that nobody else can and essentially get away with it.
I think there are two different things here. First of all, it could only be the king who could remove the title of prince, and this has never happened before. So it's big, and there is a sort of nicety, if you like, in which the king will let the Lord Chancellor know, and that's it. But it isn't the king's prerogative. The other issue around the funding of not just Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, as he will now be known, but other members of the royal family in these sort of grace and favour arrangements where the Crown Service is involved. I think it's actually right for Parliament to have a look into that a little bit more closely, because what's come out of this discussion is a whole number of questions about, you know, the Duchy of Lancaster, the Duchy of Cornwall, about who pays tax and all of this. They are very rich people. And in
well, in fact, of course, he didn't pay. He paid a peppercorn rent.
But also, I think, you know, Prince William, it would seem that he is looking to the future and wanting a smaller royal family, maybe less of the sort of duties that once were done by the former Queen and her predecessors. And in that context, there's a conversation about how much of the public purse subsidise them. On the bigger issue here, there are real victims. This is not really all about Andrew. This is about all those victims, Virginia and others, these young women who were ferried in to be the playthings, paid playthings of basically much older men. And the fact that whatever he says about the allegations, at any point he could have come forward and spoken truth about what was really going on there and seen some remorse, at least, for being part of that. But it's men in thrall. It's about royal princelings who are not necessarily getting what they think is the kudos at home and going around the world arrogantly being treated like they're the best thing since sliced bread.
And Andrew, I mean, if there's been the pressure on Andrew, he's said, I would cooperate. Obviously hasn't been seen the FBI. The Met Police dropped their investigation. I mean, now that he's been stripped of everything, I mean, what impetus is there for him anyway? What is the point of him at this point trying to save his reputation or to do the right thing?
Well, he talks about being a man of honour and putting his country and the monarchy first, and this is a good opportunity for him to do that. So, you know, I think there's still some hope for him to at least claw back some of his reputation, and so one would hope, for the sake of the victims, as Caroline said, that they would talk.
And what do you think this does to the reputation of the monarchy around the world? I mean, you've had barely any sleep. You've been doing interviews for many, many months now on this, but particularly overnight, Australia, other places. What does the monarchy look like to the rest of the world
well,
right
I think it looks
now?
in a stronger place this morning than it did last
yeah.
night. I mean, they had to distance themselves. I think they really missed a trick 2 weeks ago. This is a statement that should have been made then. Yeah. In fact, they should have been dealing with this problem years ago. They knew about it. And, you know, we have to remember...
They knew about what?
Well, they knew about Virginia Giuffre. They actually shut down an investigation by ABC television years before the story broke, threatening them that they would have no access to members of the royal family, and ABC backed down. So I think the palace, I'm pleased that they've done the right thing at last, but they've for a long time protected and enabled Andrew. And there are many of those. I mean, I agree. I'm a great believer in royal accountability and transparency, and I think this is an opportunity to look at all sorts of things, including the Duchy of Lancaster and Cornwall. I mean, the two daughters, and this was part of the deal, basically, the two daughters have been saved, and Andrew's fallen on his sword. But the two daughters have grace and favour homes at Kensington Palace and St James's Palace. Now, they're not working royals, so I think we do need to look at the wider issue here of I'm afraid, royal privilege.
I mean, they said in the first statement 2 weeks ago that, you know, and well, he said, didn't he, that this was he was being a distraction. I mean, they still haven't quite managed this right because, you know, we're back in the news again and this story is still there. Do you think they can ever really move on, you know, just by hiding him away in Sandringham, taking away titles? The allegations are very serious allegations. They don't go away. And every time we hear about Jeffrey Epstein, and there are more emails to come, we're going to be thinking of Andrew and we're going to be waiting for Andrew to say or do something about it. So from the royal point of view, does this completely go away for them?
It doesn't go away for Andrew. I think it can go away for the royal palace, because in some ways they said he's nothing to do with us. We've done what we can, and let's say they could say let the course of law take its course. I do think, I mean, people are concentrated on the sexual scandals, but actually there's a financial scandal here. I think there's a case for misconduct in public office after his time as a special trade envoy. And that's where, if I was bringing charges, that's what I would focus on.
It's, you know, and Caroline, you've mentioned there, obviously, we heard from Sky Roberts talking about his now deceased sister, Virginia Giuffre. She took her own life. And he says, you know, I wish she was here now to see that if you keep fighting, you can begin to see change. But the cost to her and her family has been insurmountable. She could not cope with it in the end. I'm not sure what this does say to victims of abuse. The toll it takes to try and make yourself heard and to be called a liar and to potentially have people in power. One of the allegations, of course, against Andrew is that he asked one of his personal protection officers who had connections to the Met to, here's her security number, here's her date of birth, can you dig up some dirt? To a woman he said he'd never met and didn't know, and that picture was possibly doctored. I mean, there is so much still yet to answer here. And it feels like her price was too high a cost.
And, you know, so many women like Virginia, and we've seen it in the wider sort of Me Too situation, where in circumstances many years ago, they signed a non-disclosure agreement and therefore often been betrayed by those who were the aggressors in this situation as just looking for money. Let's be honest about it. And that has been something as well that not just Virginia, but other victims of abuse actually have to deal with as well. And I think for many people who've gone through trauma, having to constantly relive it is really, really tough. No matter how much you carry on, you have children. She was 41 when she committed suicide earlier this year. And obviously writing the memoir, which in many respects has been the catalyst for what's happened in the last few...
She mentions him 88 times in Nobody's Girl.
But I can also think about that must have been for her a hugely traumatic experience as well. Reliving, rethinking, putting pen to paper, and writing that. And she's done a huge service for herself, her family, but also, I think, victims of abuse around the world.
And for the future of the monarchy, Prince William, we've known for quite some time, has perhaps been, at loggerheads might be too strong a word, but pulling slightly differently to the King, who may have wanted to carry on the Queen's legacy of slightly protecting her favourite son. But it feels to me that Prince William may well have been one of the cornerstones of what has happened here. Is that fair, Andrew?
Yes, I think he certainly stiffened the backbone of the King. I mean, I think the King needs to take credit for this, but I think certainly William has been doing quite a lot to push it in a slightly different direction.
Because Kate and William are moving into a new home, which is very close to where the Royal Lodge was. So I guess, and apparently that's happening in the next few weeks. So it's almost like William wants a kind of clean slate. So we're moving into the new home, Daddy. You've got to sort this out. And don't leave me with him next door and looking on to the future as a future king to have to deal with this.
Absolutely. I think he wanted the stables cleaned out before he comes to the throne himself. But I think also public opinion was way ahead of the palace for a long time, and that was really pushing.
Well, you saw the heckle. I mean, I do wonder whether for the King, that just happened in the last 24 hours. He was out shaking hands and he was heckled, and it felt like perhaps it was just very close to home. I mean, it was... I don't know if we can hear it here. And it felt visceral.
Yes, no, it was a big crisis for them, and you know, this was a key moment, and I think, you know, they've done what they could, as much as they can do.
OK, look, the government has got to deal with the budget that's coming up, a cost of living crisis. Obviously, we'll talk about Rachel Reeves' personal issues around the housing issue. But before we move on, is there appetite, do you think, politically, to take on the questions that have been raised about the funding of the monarchy? Or almost, Salma, is it too big at this time for politicians to wade into it?
I think politicians will be prompted by where the public mood is around the monarchy and its finances. I think for the moment, the king has gotten ahead of this story. But as Andrew rightly points out, this isn't just about Andrew's misconduct with women. This is about how the system actually functions. And all that privilege that is then protected no matter what you do. I think it does leave a bad taste in people's mouths. But for those of us like myself who are supporters of the monarchy and the constitutional position it holds, I think we will be expecting the King and the Prince of Wales to start thinking very carefully about how they are now going to present.
Great.
Andrew Loney, thank you very much for your time. I hope you get some rest. Will you be able to get some rest, or have you got more interviews to do all day today now?
I have some more.
Yes, great.
Get some sleep
more chapters of a book to write, no doubt, as the story keeps changing. Now, Salma and Caroline, let's talk about, well, Rachel Reeves. Now, on the front of the Daily Mail, they are continuing with their story, say, humiliation for Rachel Reeves, because some emails have come out saying that initially she had said, myself and my husband didn't know that we needed a licence in order to rent out our family home whilst they moved into the Grace and Favour home because she's Chancellor. Then there are some emails that suggest that her husband did know about it, but the letting agent has completely exonerated, it seems, Rachel Reeves from any guilt, saying it was our responsibility. We said that we would buy it for them and that they would reimburse us. We never did that. And they've apologised to clients, not just to her, but it seems that there's maybe more than just Rachel Reeves, who were on their books at the time, who they there was a bit of an issue with staffing, a bit of a handover crisis, and that bit of the licensing of their emails just didn't happen. Why is it then that the Daily Mail continues to say in their comment, Rachel Reeves has committed a criminal offence and one for which others have been heavily fined, and as the second most important member of the government, this matters. Are they right about that, or are they flogging a dead horse now?
No, I think they're absolutely right about it. And look, you can absolutely take the general position as a person who is incredibly busy thinking about what she needs to do, being focused on the economy. You can make all those excuses. Here's the issue. One is the detail of this story, is that the legal responsibility of obtaining that licence sits with the person who is the homeowner. So the fact that the agency said, this is nothing to do with them, we made the mistake, is not an exoneration. And this crime actually comes with a maximum £30,000 fine. So if you want to be tough, as the government does on landlords, which it has been, you can't then flout the rules. But secondly, this is a context issue. And you have lots of ministers who've been involved in upgrading rents. You've got
the Rashana Ali situation.
Exactly.
Just to explain, she wanted to sell her home that was rented. The tenants were evicted, put it on sale. It didn't sell, and she put it back onto rent for a higher rent.
Exactly, quite an exorbitantly higher rent. It was £1,000 more a month, I believe. And then you have the situation with Labour donations, Keir Starmer's glasses, Angela Rayner's stamp duty. So there is a context in which we exist that actually doesn't feel good, because it's like one rule for us and another rule for them. And I think that is actually very politically dangerous.
I mean, the thing is, though, and I've been a landlord myself, I think about this a lot, and some people, that, you know, this selective licence doesn't apply to everybody. I remember sort of reading about it generally and going, oh, hang on, does this apply to me? You put your postcode and you go, oh, God, it does. So, you know, I think there's a sort of an element of, well, you know, you do leave a little bit to the estate agents. And there's an email from her husband who the estate agent confirms, I'm going to get this sorted. So she's kind of...
But have you checked? And have you... She sent a tweet out that welcomed the extension of this licensing,
and in fact,
in her own city, in her
Leeds,
own city.
yes.
There is, look, I don't think there's any doubt that Rachel Reeves has shot herself in the foot over this. But I don't think she went out of her way to avoid doing something. She's made a mistake here. One of the difficulties in this, which, you know, the public will be thinking about, is of course they should have sorted this out. But you can see from the email trail that actually her husband was handling a lot of this, not to just pass it on to her husband, but that's what happens in marriages.
Somebody was taking on
Oh,
the
that's
mental
right. Blame
load.
the husband, Garraway. Yeah, all right.
Usually, Adil, it's the wife that gets blamed because she's usually sorting
Well, no
all this
wonder
out.
it went wrong.
You know, in that
Pipe down, Adil.
however,
Pipe down.
That's why I'm not getting married.
First of all, it was that they hadn't done it, but then it does look, and obviously the estate agents have come out.
Do you think the public care enough about this,
This is
though,
the
for
point,
it to be
isn't it?
this big?
The thing about it is that having done that letter, this is one of her big mistakes, and I just don't get it, given everything that Summer's quite rightly said about Roshnara Ali, about others, about Angela Rayner changing a story, is she puts a written letter out to Keir Starmer saying, I knew nothing about this.
Yeah.
Her husband finds the email. Why did she not get over the detail? And I think the bigger issue here is not that the public think that, you know, they've made a mistake. Local authorities have these sort of bylaws. They can apply them. They can take into consideration all the issues. But the thing is, in a few weeks, she's going to be doing the budget. And if she's not over the detail of sorting out a home arrangement...
I mean, that is a fair... even the Prime
detail of
Minister
doing the
did say,
budget?
apparently, in the letters and emails that have come out, the Prime Minister said, you know, it would have been better if you've done a full trawl before
have
you
been spitting
contacted me in the
feathers.
first place. But look, we have to say, an independent advisor of ministerial standards has said there's no blame and it's just an unfortunate, inadvertent error. But you do... you know, the Mail are now writing another sort of 10 pages on this. People at home, generally people at home, do you think they're going, this is a big issue?
No,
or are they going,
no.
Or they're going, you're just politicking here.
It's not.
This is people trying to sell papers to me.
It's
Let's
not-
get on with the most important stuff.
It's not about the one incident, right? The fear for me is that people read this kind of story, they don't necessarily look at the detail. They don't go, oh, God, she's banged to rights or whatever. You know, they maybe are generous and say it was a mistake. But it's just that low-level politicians just don't play by everybody else's rules.
But why isn't the Mail running a front-page story on the fact that Kemi Badenoch actually has admitted she hacked into Harriet Harman's website and put in pro-conservative messages into it? Now, actually, I sort of think that hacking into people's websites, putting false information in the public domain is a pretty serious offence
But Badenoch said she wasn't an MP at the time.
I mean, I don't
she was
care. It
young.
says something
But it's
about her
about character.
character. She wasn't 14. She was in her 20s, Adil.
Yes, it's fascinating. Now, before we end this moment of visceral debate, shall we do a quick spoiler alert? We're going to do it now.
Big spoiler alert. This is about the traitors, everybody.
What's going on?
Right. Traitors.
Dun, dun,
Yes,
dun, dun.
Laura.
But why are you... I have to be at work.
Yes, I know.
It's so
Put your
annoying.
fingers in your
I can't
ears.
leave the room. OK, Andy
You need
Peters.
to cover your ears as well as your
Caroline.
eyes.
I saw it.
You
I saw
watched
it. I
it.
did. Can I say?
You can say.
Kate's been murdered!
And Kate is on the show. She was banished, wasn't she?
Oh, yes, sorry, banished.
She was
banished.
banished. What have you been making of it, Caroline? Would you do the Traitors?
I'd love to do the Traitors. I love those sort of murder mystery type of sort of things. But what was it? I mean,
By the way, you would be hopeless on the Traitors. You'd be
Why?
like murdered so quick because you've got like, absolutely no poker face.
I have my poker face. Listen, I can...
That smile summed it up.
OK, here's a question
This
before
is
we go.
my GMB face. I have a poker face.
Which MP would you like to see in there? Who would be a good traitor?
Oh, all of them. I mean,
Which
it's very
politician? All
triggering
of
for
them.
me and the Tory party.